Every 911 call in Jefferson County comes to this location. We took over 1.3 million calls last year. Our two aisles here are all of our 911 call takers. Around the back of the room is all of our dispatchers. We dispatch fire and EMS for the entire county and all of LMPD. There is some secondary public safety answering points, J-Town, St. Matthews. Their calls still come here, but we transfer to them. So they dispatch theirs, but it goes just as quick as it would go across the room, it goes to them. So this is our deflection team here. We strategically put them between our call takers and our dispatchers because they could have access to both, to the point where sometimes they stand up and you don't need to communicate with them that way. So they're in the middle of the room. She's on a call now. In March of 22, we added our 911 mental health deflection program. It's worked very well. It's one of the more proud projects I've ever been on. If you'd have told me 30 years ago when I joined, started getting into public safety, that I'd be involved in a project like that, I'd have probably disagreed with you, but that's the day and age that we're living in, and it's a project that was needed. And like I said, it just keeps getting better every single day. It takes a special person to come in and do this.
Director Meiman, thank you so much for taking some time to be here with us today.
No problem.
Really excited to talk to you about this program that you have been working on, Deflection. But would you just start talking about what is Deflection?
Yeah, so deflection is where we're taking a call, a 911 call for service that comes into our 911 center just on the other side of this wall. They triage those calls, and if it fits the criteria for some type of mental health problem, then they send it to our CTWs, or our crisis triage workers that are sitting in the 911 center, and instead of it going to the police or going to EMS, they can actually physically help them potentially with just a phone call, or they can send a mobile crisis responder out to visit them in the field.
So someone calls in, and then those calls are deflected to a different unit, either here in at MetroSafe or in the field, or both.
Right, they start here. We've got behavioral health specialists, like I said, that are sitting right in the 911 center. They further triage that person. Many times they're able to get them the help they need just over the phone, so there doesn't even need to be a response. One example is we had a repeat caller. They would call 911 literally 300 or 400 times a day.
Oh.
And they got to the crisis triage worker, and it turned out that it was just a medication issue, and they were able to fix that, and the person doesn't call 911 anymore at all, which that ties up our 911 lines.
Oh, yeah.
When they're calling for for no reason at all, or what they think may be a problem, which really isn't. So that's just one example of how it's helped people.
So I definitely want to get into the history of it, but can you tell another example of it, maybe when it gets out into the field?
So there was an issue where there was a police officer that encountered someone having a mental health crisis. They were able to reverse the process, get the mobile crisis responder to respond to them out in the field. As they arrived on scene, obviously the police officer made sure that the person was safe to interact with. There was an armed robbery about a block away, and the officer was able to leave that and go to deal with the armed robbery, which was a successful interaction as well. But normally, or in past practices, they would have had to stay on site with that person having the mental health crisis, and maybe not been able to have a successful outcome on the criminal part of it. So,
wow.
There's so many different aspects of how it's been a successful program.
So you're really freeing up police resources by getting people better interactions.
Right. Before, the option was to either go to the hospital or to go to jail, depending on what the circumstances were. And now the people are truly being able to talk to mental health, behavioral health specialists. And the police have a crisis intervention team that's great, and they're trained very well, and they know what they need to do to interact with people in a mental health crisis. So that actually took place before we started the deflection program. We just integrated those together. So we've had Pam Oberhausen with the police department. She's been great, and she was a part of our team that helped develop the process. She's over their CIT program.
Well, great. So talk a little bit about how this program started here in Louisville.
It was 2 days before the budget was due. We were told that there was going to be an extra couple $1 million put in our budget. So it was like, all right. And it was like, but this is what it's going to be for. So, I'd heard about programs like that. But being in the 911 world, it was a very up and coming type of process. In the very beginning stages, there were some cities across the United States that had projects like this. So it was a matter of there was a group together to develop a pilot program. Our deputy director Kelly Jones and I started to join that group. There were several people from around the city that was in that, We visited other cities throughout the United States, Austin, Texas being one of them. That's a great model. They welcomed us with open arms. They showed us their process on both the 911 as well as the mental health side of it. So, you know, it was really that program that we somewhat saw that we wanted to inherit and start to develop and piggyback on what they were doing there. So it's got some different things. Obviously, we've got some dynamics here that they don't have, or vice versa. And you know, we're actually doing some things here. They came and visited our center.
Oh, really?
We had a national conference that was here last summer, and they actually came to visit and picked up some of the things that we had done different than they did, and took back to you know, to do some of those things. Simple things like, you know, we issue our mobile crisis responders a radio, where if they get in trouble, they have the ability to get into our 911 center and immediately ask for help. So that's something that, you know, not many centers were, or not many of the programs were doing. So, you know, we just, we're continuing to get better. I mean, we still look at best practices. We're in groups that meet quarterly throughout the United States, and, you know, just looking at best practices and what's going on.
So what are the criteria that when a call comes into 911 that gets them put into this program?
It's more the criteria of what won't let them get into that.
Okay.
So it's, you know, if they have a weapon, if they're in possession of a weapon, if they have taken any type of drugs or alcohol that require some type of medical attention, if they have some other type of medical issue that they need medical attention, which can still be diverted over eventually once they're cleared by the medical piece of it, they could be, you know, be handed over to the deflection team.
But medical's separate from a mental health
It is,
issue.
right.
Okay.
So,
right.
but if they're
injured,
they would fit the criteria for a mental health, but they had just had a seizure,
okay,
or they're going through some type of diabetic emergency, those things have to be taken care of first.
okay,
If somebody's threatening themselves or others, you know, that would not meet the criteria. So if somebody calls in and that's one of the first questions, those are the first questions that they ask. If that doesn't meet that, then they send it over to the crisis triage worker just sitting across the room in the 911 center.
So can I call in for someone else?
So there's first party and second party callers. So you can call in with somebody, or you can call in for yourself if you're having a mental health crisis, or you can call in somebody that you're physically with.
Okay.
And that meets the criteria. What we call third party callers is where you're driving down the road, you may witness someone that's having some type of mental health issue, but you don't know if they don't have any weapons or they've been under influence of alcohol or drugs. That would require co-response. So they could still end up getting to the deflection team, but a police response would go first just to make sure that that scene's safe for the people to approach.
So you said co-response. Can you talk a little about what that is?
So it's where the police are dispatched along with the mobile crisis responders, or potentially instead of the mobile crisis responders, like I said, if it doesn't meet that criteria, if they have a weapon, they're threatening themselves or others, they send the police to make sure that that scene's safe, they don't have any weapons, and then they can backtrack and call that mobile crisis responder over to the scene to relieve them so they can get back to, you know, doing more criminal acts.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the, you know, what's happened as this program has evolved? You mentioned when we were talking earlier about where people get transported, what percentage of people do get transported, some of that information.
So we've taken over 800 calls inside the 911 center, and it's had about a 90% success rate overall. There's just some people that want to talk to the police, and that's not a bad thing, but, you know, if you want to talk to the police, you should be able to talk to the police. So about 10% of the people, they want the police to come and respond to see if they can help them in any way. Out of the 800, over 500 responses in the mobile crisis response field, and over 250 of those have been transported to facilities throughout the area to get them the proper help that they need.
The ones that are not with the mobile crisis response team, what happens there?
We're able to resolve a lot of them on the phone, just get them the help they need. And what's good about what we've done is we contracted 7 county services, which has been a great partner in this entire project from the beginning. And you know, we went back and forth about, okay, should we hire people that are Metro employees, or should we let a contractor hire people that are theirs? And the biggest thing that pushed us into letting like 7 county services, our contractor, hire those people is because now they've got access to any history that the people have had.
Right.
Where if they were Metro employees, we would not be able to do that. Right. So, you know, they're able to potentially get them connected with help that they may have had in the past,
okay,
or, you know, divert them from help that they may have had in the past that didn't work for them.
Got it.
That's been a great partnership, and they're able to view all that where we wouldn't have been able to do it.
So there's calls that things get resolved on the phone, they get connected to treatment, or they get to talk to somebody, And then mobile crisis response goes out. And then can you just talk a little bit about?
So they do the mobile crisis response. If they're not able to be helped on the phone, they go out and make a visit, see exactly what needs they may have. It could be someone that's living on the street that may need to be put into some type of care in a facility throughout the area. So they transport them there, get them the help they need, and potentially get them into some kind of program.
And where are the places that they're getting transported to?
So it's Our Lady of Peace. It's wellness centers throughout. Healing Place, is another big one that we transport people to. So it's, like I said, it's facilities, and Seven County has several facilities that they transport to as well. They have a respite center that's set up that they can take people to as well and monitor them and potentially get them the help that they need.
But just for clarity, they are not going to jail and they're not going to the hospitals.
They're not, unless they truly need that, and then they call EMS. Back if they found that they've got some kind of medical problem, they'll call EMS and transport them to the hospital. Okay. But it's not in a mental health capacity. It's whatever medical needs that they may have.
So what are some of the lessons that you've learned?
We wanted to start slow, which we did. We started in one police division, the 4th Police Division.
Which is where?
In the old Louisville area.
Okay.
Because the data told us that was the area that we had the most mental health calls in the past. And then we tracked two things. We tracked obviously the calls that were coming in to the other 7 police divisions that would have met the actual criteria. So we called it deflection not available. So that pointed us in the direction of where we needed to go to next. We knew we could keep up with the call volume. We would expand another division and expand another division. So now we're in 12-hour shifts instead of 8 hours where we started at. Our next goal, we may expand 2 hours on either end of that and maybe go 8 in the morning till midnight, or wherever that data is pointing us at, that's where we're going to go next.
So I know a lot of community members are eager to have this kind of response. Are you ready for us to be talking to community about expanding?
Eventually we'll get to that, but we don't want to give people false hope as far as if they live in a certain area outside of like LMPD right now, you may not be able to get that help. So we're expanding slow. We're going into those other public safety answering points area, our smaller police cities, J-Town, St. Matthews, potentially Shively, University of Louisville, and Anchorage, some of our other ones, and then the next step after that will be countywide.
Okay, so we're not ready to say, all right, this is going to be all over the city yet, but we're growing slowly.
And eventually, it could be one of those things where when you call 911, they don't just say police, fire, EMS. They say police, fire, EMS, or mental health. And that's where some of the cities have gotten, which is it's a huge thing, whatever the time frame is. We just want to make sure that we're doing it right before we completely advertise.
Any other lessons?
We are hiring. That's been big, is getting the right qualified people into the room. You're sitting there, you're looking at screens all day, or you're interacting. It may not be something that you're used to. So, we invite people to come up and do job shadows to see if it's something that they like. We do background checks. So, we because of the 911 center and the restrictions put on that, you have to meet certain qualifications to even get into that room.
But then do you do the training, or do you have to come in with previous?
We do the training. Now the behavioral health side of it, we ask that you have previous qualifications, but we are working with some local colleges that if someone's got an associate's degree and wants to move into a bachelor's degree, that we can do some type of job for them as they're getting that next degree.
That's great. So what are going to be the next steps? So you mentioned, expanding slowly.
We're looking at renewing our contract or putting it out for bid, whatever the city decides to do. Putting some potential other stipulations in there about, hiring and meeting qualifications and exactly what we want to do. Like I said before, we had it where everybody had to be of a certain level, and now we've looked and said, well, maybe we have one of those people in the room, but some other ones are of a lower level qualification or certification. So, that's the thing, is perfecting the process that we've already got. We know the good thing about it is the mayor and the council put it in this year's budget as far as financially, so that the money's there. It's just a matter of us putting it into play and continuing the project.
So you mentioned that Austin came back and was looking at our program. Are there other things that you want to go out and see, or people that are coming here?
We're always looking at what other cities are doing. Like I said, we're on a best practices group with several other cities across America that they meet quarterly, just through a WebEx. And so what good and what bad, and what may be working good in one city may not work very well here just because of the dynamics. So we're taking everything out there and just seeing exactly what we want to do to make the program better. There's 911 national conferences where this is a big topic now about how these 911 centers are taking these on. So, you know, what's good about it is, you know, you hear people talking behind the scenes about Louisville and what we've done here. And like I said, it's something we're very proud of.
What are you hearing from LMPD about it?
It's been good. You know, the police have another option, you know, to where they can help people out. So it's been a very good success. We've been to all their roll calls as we've expanded into police divisions. We have someone from 7 County Services and someone from our staff that goes and they talk to them. But it's been very well received. Like I said, it's just another tool in their toolbox. And you know what's been really receptive from them is that they're able to be freed up to do the things that, you know, they're out there to do more of, and you know, get these people the help that they need right on site.
So we've heard a lot that we need more respite spaces, more sort of transitional housing spaces. Is that, I mean, what are you seeing with that?
That's not affected our program yet. You know, we've still been able to maintain.
Anything else that you want to be sure people know about this program?
We're still learning every day. I mean, you know, we're learning from other cities, we're learning from ourselves. You know, I can't say enough about our computer-aided dispatch technicians, our dispatchers, our call takers, because it was them that put this together. You know, we just told them, hey, this is what we want to do, and you know, we created a working group, sent them out in the United States to see what was going good and what was going bad, and you know, they created this program. So you know, my hat's off to them for, you know, taking the time out of their, you know, busy schedules to come back and help implement this new project.
So, and I know that there's something similar working on a state level. How does this integrate with that?
You know, we're watching that closely. There's not a lot of other programs like this in the state, so hopefully they're using us as a model.
Great. Well, Director, thank you for your time.
No problem, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you very much.